You know, it scares me a little bit when we call these a Lenten lecture. I'm not going to lecture. In fact, what I'm going to do today, if I'm successful, is you all are going to decide, you're going to take a parish vote at the end of this presentation, and you're going to move to Guatemala. And you're going to set up shop, leave all your homes, and go become missionaries in Guatemala. Okay.
I don't think so.
So we'll see if I'm successful or not. I probably won't be, but that's okay. So let's talk about the Orthodox Christian Mission Center. So who are we? Well, the Great Commission is our driving force. Go therefore to all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. And there's a line right after this, and I will be with you until the end of age. Really important to remember, not only for our walk, not only for our discussion today, but really our walk in life, is to know that God is with us. You know, we hear that even at the Nativity, God is with us. Understand that all the nations, for submit yourself, for God is with us. And our mission is, we are the assembly agency responsible for doing mission work internationally for all churches in America, all 1,942 churches in the lower 48. The Mission Center is responsible for doing that. And we're doing that work across the globe. Our vision, of course, is that all people come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. This is kind of important, but I'm going to go through it kind of briefly because we do have this, you know, we've been here a while tonight, and I'm so happy to see so many people tonight, by the way. This is, considering the weather, I was really thinking the worst, but this is wonderful. So our values, we proclaim and witness Christ to all people. And priority, of course, is given to those who haven't really heard the gospel before, because we want to share the love of Christ for the whole person, the spiritual and the physical. And that's kind of important because you're going to hear different things from me tonight about what we're doing to not only build the church, but to also care for the faithful. We minister in the language and the culture of the people, and we steward the resources given to us with transparency. Here's a little bit of a history of what we have done and who we are. In 1967, and very honestly, this goes well back, before 1967, when Father Alexander Veronis in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and President Pearl started doing kind of mission collections for doing international things and bringing people here. But in 1967, the Standing Committee on Missions was formed by the Greek Archdiocese in New York City. Our mission committee then moved from New York to St. Augustine, Florida in 1985, headed up at that time by Father Dimitris Cashel, Father Jim. Our first full-time missionaries, Dan Christopoulos, in fact, and his wife Nancy were assigned to Kenya, to Nairobi, to work at the seminary. We built our first mission church in Laikipia, Kenya in 1987. In 1994, really things had grown to the point were it was really not sustainable, and it really deserved, the mission movement really deserved to be cared for by the entire church. So we were kind of set off from the Greek Archdiocese to become an independent 501c3 under the auspices, under the authority of the SCOBA at the time, and of course now the Assembly of Canonical Bishops in America and Canada. Our mission training center was built, and here's a photo of it down here at the bottom in 2009. We're still there now. It's about a 12,000 square foot building in 2 wings. We have a training center on one side with dormitories, full-size kitchen. On the other side, we have our offices. So, a couple of milestones. We have had 119 long-term missionaries who've served in the field since 1985. 2,800 volunteers have participated in 357 mission teams since 1987. It's a lot of people we've sent out into the world to do small things. 560 priests have been supported in 25 countries through our supported mission priest program. Currently, there are nearly 400 priests being served by that program. So of the 560, 400 are on the rolls right now. 55 regions in the world. We worked in 55 regions in the world, 52 countries, 2 US territories, Alaska, 57 construction projects, mostly churches. So what do? We try to grow the church. We try to share the goodness of our Lord and his love for us in all of our fallenness. And we're doing that in conjunction with local churches around the world. I want to show you a video here in a second. It kind of encapsulates what it is we do. But this is Salali. He's a shaman. He's a tribal leader in kind of the desert regions of northwestern Kenya in the Turkana region. This is Father Martin, our executive director. And Father Martin had led a team to really do the spearhead missionary kind of work in Turkana some years ago. And there's a little video that we have that kind of talks about it. And we can't hear it. Anybody know how to turn on the volume on the TV? I imagine. I forgot to ask about that.
It used to be on the stand. Yeah, it is.
Oh, how tricky.
Thank you all.
You can see that better than I.
Volume. Here we go.
Yeah, just, there we go. Okay.
Should do it.
Huh.
Maybe not. Oh, yeah. Break your computer.
Let's check that. Keep your fingers crossed.
Lives of the Turkana people. The legends
So before we move on, so that was a couple years ago. So what is the rest of the story for Solali and all of those people that we just saw getting baptized in that river? The story was shortly after they were baptized, one of the other migrant herding communities came and literally fought them and took all of their cattle, destroyed their entire village. A year later, Father Martin had come back and he ran into Solali. And Father Martin, of course, had been told what happened to the village. The village was decimated and the whole community was basically dispersed. And Father Martin thought, okay, this is it. I'm going to get hammered. Look what you did. You made me a Christian and my life is destroyed. But Solali had that same attitude. No, you don't understand. This is good. My life has changed. Solali is still alive and still serving in the Christian community that is building even today in that tribal region of Turkana. It's an amazing thing. In fact, Turkana has grown to the point where they've now established a diocese. Part of Western Kenya has been split off. The Diocese of Western Kenya has been split off and includes now the just north of Western Kenya, of course, is Turkana. That now is part of the diocese because they have enough things going on that we have helped them establish. So it's an amazing story of growth. It's just an amazing story. So our missionaries serve vocationally. Right now we have 28 missionaries. I just saw on Facebook today we have a family who's flying to Fiji. They just sent a selfie of them on the airplane. Mom and dad, the Jones family, mom and dad, 3 kids, and they're headed off to Fiji. So they'll be starting their new mission. So we'll have 30 here very shortly, but we have 28 missionaries currently serving somewhere vocationally. Primarily in the largest numbers are in Albania and in Guatemala. But of course, we have people serving individually around the world, Korea, Romania, etc. We send mission teams. We just had a team of doctors, medical professionals go down to Guatemala to care for the indigenous Mayan faithful in the Mayan Orthodox Church. I'll get to the whole Guatemalan Orthodox Church here in a little bit. We support mission priests, and I mentioned that. They receive a $600 stipend each year, $50 a month, from us, the faithful here in America. We're actually going to increase the number. I said we almost have 400. We're going to increase that number to about 425. We learned recently that there's been some issues in Africa as a whole. We haven't really changed that stipend in many years. So it's been $50 a month. The priests are not really doing well. Prices even in Africa are going up. There's 900 priests in all of Africa. We support, of that 400, about 325 or so are in the African continent. So we've got about 600 priests that aren't getting any kind of stipend. And there has been some controversy about the Russian church coming in, the Rowe church coming into Africa. And a lot of that really does have to do with a life-sustaining financial support that the Russian church is offering some priests that the African church can't. But maybe we're going to turn that around. We received recently a very generous gift, and we're going to try to get that matched and then disperse that this year to every priest in Africa. So keep us in your prayers, keep the financial, the people who have that kind of wherewithal to help us, keep them in your prayers. But there's a huge need in Africa, and we have to meet that. Mission projects. This is an interesting dynamic. What does mission projects have to do with spreading the gospel around the world? Isn't that something that IOCC should be doing? And that's probably true. You heard from IOCC last week, I guess, right? Who was here?
Michael, one of our parishioners who's done work.
Oh, okay, yeah, great. That's perfect. And of course, they do acute humanitarian care very well, way better than we do. But what we do is we invest in projects that help grow the church. I'll give you a perfect example. We're funding a project that's a very small amount of money. It's $10,000 or $15,000. It's in Ghana. And they're going to recycle waste, take from it the methane gas and sell that to people to bottle and then heat their homes and cook their food. They're going to take the compost material, they're going to sell that as fertilizer. For $10,000 or $15,000, that will be thousands of dollars of income each year to the Ghanaian church. And what a wonderful investment into that church. In Guatemala, Father John Chacos, a priest and his wife in Pittsburgh, has been working with the Guatemalan church for many, many years. A very small investment of sewing machines into that community, and they went down there and started to teach people how to make vestments and cassocks and altar wear, altar server wear, priest vestments, deacon vestments. And they have a very self-sustaining project for a very small amount of money, supporting the growth of that church. So it's an amazing thing. Our missionaries, by and large, teach. They really do spend an awful lot of time interacting individually, one-on-one with people. Here's Nathan Hoppy. This is the seminary in Durrës in Western Albania. It's an amazing thing. We were in Albania. We just had an opportunity to go to Albania around Thanksgiving into the first part of December. And we were able to see, here's all our missionaries in Albania and their families, and Dan and myself and Prez Renee and Father Martin were all there. We had Thanksgiving dinner. We had to import the turkey from Italy, and it was about a 40-pound bird. It was like a big dog size. It was amazing turkey. I don't know how they got it in the oven, but it's actually the best turkey I've had in forever. Turkeys aren't really big, and there is no real Thanksgiving in Albania, of course. But here's the church in Tirana, the cathedral, and it's an amazing place. It's Holy Resurrection Cathedral, and it's so cool. I don't know if I've actually been in a Holy Resurrection church before, but of course their troparion of the church is the resurrection, hymn. So it was really cool. But 29 years ago, the church came out of the dark ages. The church was destroyed by the communist government from the 40s after World War II until 1992. They were ruled by communists. Those communists is kind of an interesting thing. They started out kind of unified with Russia. The Albanian communists and the Russian or the Soviet Union saw eye to eye. After a few years, apparently the Soviets got soft. The Albanians went looking for other partners in the world, and they went to Red China. And they were kind of friends with Red China in the 60s until the Chinese got soft. And the only friends they had left in the world from the 70s until the 90s was North Korea. And that was, a flavor for what their society was like. It was incredibly repressive, more than in just 2 decades, from the 70s to the 90s, more than almost 100,000 people, more than 95,000 people were killed at the borders, either trying to escape or trying to enter the country. And the churches were all destroyed. This is the church of St. John, Vladimir, a saint revered by throughout the Balkans. But this church was just the walls, no ceiling, no anything. But they did save the walls, and that icon is from the 1700s. Here's another interesting story. See the cypress trees, right? Is that with those tall, skinny evergreens? So there were over 600 churches destroyed by the communists, many of them leveled to the ground, the stones taken away. But when the church kind of was starting to rediscover itself in the 90s and into the 2000s, they would go around and they'd look for these trees. When there were 2 or 3 or 4 or so cypress trees planted together in a row, they would know that there was a church there. In the Albanian tradition, the Greek tradition, that's what you did. So it's a beautiful church now, and the iconography is still kind of being restored, but that's what it is. Here in the Home of Hope, we have our orphanage established by OCMC, by an OCMC missionary, the Home of Hope. And these are the orphans that are there now. It's really more of a, it's not exactly an orphanage, it's really a residence for kids who are in trouble. Sometimes their families can't support them, sometimes they really are orphans. But what a beautiful group of children they were, and they sang to us as it was the holiday season. Albania is an interesting country. They've, of course, I said this before, the churches have been resurrected over the last 29 years or so. Albania is the size of Maryland. Albania has right now 435 churches active online. There are about 175 priests who serve those 435 churches. They have several monasteries. They have a synod of bishops in 4 dioceses. They have income producing things like a hydroelectric dam. Actually, they have 3 of them. They have a candle making operation. They have an iconography studio. They make woodwork projects. All of this goes to support the church. The church supports all of the parishes and all of the priests. But the hydroelectric dam provides about 60% of the financial needs of the entire archdiocese each year. A church in a country the size of Maryland. How many hydroelectric dams do we have? And we have 1,900. Remember, I said this before. We have 1,942 churches in America. They have 435. I lay that out to you as a challenge. Why can't we do this? I don't know. Well, I do know. But church growth. This is an amazing story too. This is Guatemala, and here they're blessing the new cathedral in AQUACATE. This is an amazing story of growth. In 12 years, this church in Guatemala went from basically 1 priest, Father Andres Grivan, to today there's about 45,000 Orthodox Christians in about 150 parish communities served by 6 or 7 priests. So there's a huge gap. Obviously, you can see where they're trying to go. This is the current seminary in AQUACATE, and just a couple images of the beautiful churches they built and the beautiful landscape and the territory where they are. But this is the highlands. So it's in the northwest corner of Guatemala on the Mexican border. They're indigenous mines, pretty much abandoned by the government, abandoned by the Catholic Church. They're on their own. Father Andres came to the metropolitan of Mexico City and said, we need help because our people aren't being cared for. And we went, and that's what we did. We brought the church, the Orthodox Church, to Guatemala. And here we are today. We are building a new seminary because they've outgrown this facility. We're building a new facility in a bigger town, more centrally located. There's going to be two components to this seminary, believe it or not. We're going to continue to train young men to be priests. But another portion of that building is going to be dedicated to Guatemalans training up to become missionaries to other Guatemalans and Colombians and Ecuadorians and whoever is needing to be served by the church. As an aside, by the way, there's already 2 Guatemalan Orthodox churches or Mayan Orthodox churches planted in America, in San Francisco. So one of the priests is coming up and serving that community up in California because there's Guatemalans here, and they want the faith, the true faith that the Orthodox Church represents. These are the things that we do out in American parishes, parish ambassadors. We do events. We like to host things, bring people together, kind of do some of this awareness raising. Our SAMP partners, $600 investment gets you a one-on-one relationship with a mission priest somewhere in the world. And of course, the Agape partners, coin boxes. I don't know if you guys got the little OCMC coin boxes for your church school or anything like that, but those are great ways to bring to life the need to do mission work, to share the gospel, to share in not only here in this world. Let me say that again. We need to share the gospel. We need to start by sharing it to everyone in our family. And then secondly, we need to share it to our community. Remember, a country the size of Maryland, 400 churches. And then we need to share it to everyone in the world. Father Martin's right, there's over 1 billion people who have not heard the gospel. And let's be honest, there's millions, and I'll point my finger at Western Europe, for example, who are kind of post-Christian. They were baptized into Christian churches, specifically, in our case, the Orthodox Church, and have left. Our youth are leaving here in America. We're struggling. We need to bridge that gap and become the church of tomorrow, not the church of yesterday. This is where we're working currently. And we have mission priests, we have mission programs, we have projects going on throughout South Asia, Southeast Asia, of course, Africa, and more to come there. One interesting thing about COVID is that it's presented us lots of different opportunities to interact with people. The first 6 months of COVID, I can't even remember how long ago that was. The churches, there were a number of churches in Africa that had totally, the financial crisis had really struck Africa very, very quickly. There was no banking transactions and things like that throughout the EU. So there was not money flowing from Europe down into Africa. Several bishops literally reached out to us and said, we can't feed our orphans. We can't feed our children in school. We need your help. It wasn't the virus. It was the financial impact. And we scraped up a quick $100,000 and sent it out, but we established new relationships. I said we send teams around the world. We don't send teams. We haven't sent teams now for 2 years, except this Guatemalan medical team was the first one we've sent in 2 years. But we've been zooming into communities throughout the world, places we wouldn't have gone and sent Americans in the past. We've sent several teams, Zoom teams, to Pakistan, to Colombia, to places that are very difficult to get to or too dangerous to get to. So it's an exciting component that we've never, ever explored before. But here we are, and we're Zooming tonight. Hello, Zoom people. So here's the call for action. Pray for our missionaries. Honestly, when we were there in Albania, it was an amazing story. Our missionaries are doing such great work. We were at a Bible study that Nathan Hoppe was conducting, and there was a woman there. And again, this is in that beautiful cathedral in central Tirana. They have everything materialistic that you can imagine in an Orthodox church, just spectacular facilities that have come to be. However, they don't have parish communities like we know that because they didn't grow up with it, right? The church is only 29 years old. Imagine, the whole church is only 29 years old. Everybody's knowledge is 29 years old at most. And the first decade of that was kind of chaos. We had to evacuate our missionaries in 1998 because people were shooting in the streets again. There was a Ponzi scheme that ruined the entire economy. So we had to start over after they got that whole thing settled, right? So there was a woman in that we're surrounded by absolutely just beautiful facilities. And she looks at us and she says in Albanian, "Thank you so much for Nathan. And please don't ever forget us." And she's asking for us to live in that community. The community that our Ukrainian and Russian friends have destroyed. Here's an Albanian looking for that community of faith. That community that's built around one thing, that's Jesus Christ. So pray for our missionaries to build those communities. And they're alone doing that. I'll be honest, Father Chris Moore, an OCA priest in South Korea, is struggling. It's just him and his family. He's, the only white guy in town, and he's trying to build a community. Think about that. You might see Father Chris in Baltimore at the All-American Conference, but just an amazing task they have. Financially support us. We just need help to do this. And whether it's an annual gift or a monthly gift, whatever you can do to help us. And it's not about the dollar values. It's really about keeping us connected. Your prayers, your tithes, where they say where your gold is, there your heart is. Well, we want, I'm not ready to take a vote yet on whether we're moving to Guatemala or not, but hopefully I've cracked a little bit into your hearts about the imperative to do this work, to care for people and change people's lives across the world. Of course, it starts here, but it extends from here in the strength of this community. And I've known this parish team for a while, but this has to go. The love we have in the community we have has to extend to the world. And then serve here, bring awareness to the need to share the gospel, to be in a loving community with Christ and each other. And that alone will change the world. So that's what I have for you today. There's my contact information. I have some material up here. Please come up, take some. There's envelopes, there's prayer cards, take those with you. Bookmarks are really cool. I still like books, believe it or not, with paper. And if you do too, take a bookmark. So are there any questions or any thoughts or anything? Yeah.
How old do you have to be to help out? Go on a mission? At 18 or?
18 independently will go down to 16 with an adult. Yep. And those are, and we're kind of we've been on a pause, so I'll talk about teams for a second. Obviously, we've been on a COVID pause for sending teams around, and we're kind of re-envisioning what teams are going to look like once we actually start to re-engage, putting people on airplanes and sending them places. I think actually teams are going to kind of become more exciting as we go forward. Maybe not as many of them, but they're going to be more focused in working with our missionaries to extend their effectiveness. So we're looking for not only team members, but we're looking for interns. We're looking for people who want to do a short-term service project. What about a gap year? So we really do have, we're really looking at offering different opportunities to serve and to engage in the communities that we work in around the world. So our new teams going forward, we're still kind of working on the details, but are going to look a lot more like missionary collaborators rather than independent agents going out to do things. We're not going to really do as many builds. We're not going to do as many, independent kind of things. But I think it's actually working out to be pretty exciting. Fun.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at the center? Aside from administrating, obviously the work with OCFC, you have classrooms there and you training?
Yeah. And so we would typically bring, so we have 12 dorm rooms on the second floor. And then we have a big meeting room, a kitchen, a library on that wing of the building. And what we typically would do in non-COVID times is we bring teams as they come together. We would bring them into the training center, into the mission center, and train them up to deploy them to their destinations. So there'd be a 2 or 3 day session. They'd have actually teams that typically have homework that they would do 2 or 3 months in advance of deployment. And then they'd come together and then kind of create their lesson plans, create their, put the final touches on the things that they're going to do when they get out in the field. And then they leave together as a team to go to the field from there. We also do, and what we have continued to do, of course, is missionary training. So 2 to 3 times a year, we'll bring our missionaries, candidates, people who want to explore a vocational missionary service. And we'll bring them in for a week or 2 at a time, actually. And then we run classes. Our missionaries are trained typically by starting like an at-home study, kind of a guided study project. And they have a syllabus that literally they, kind of accomplish a number of projects that train them up in Orthodox missiology. Because Orthodox missionaries are completely different than you imagine missionaries, kind of working in the world with other Christian evangelists, evangelists and missionaries. We don't work independent. We work within and are embedded within the church. And our missionaries are there to expand the capabilities of those churches by bringing their particular gifts to that church. So we'll train up the missionaries independently, then we bring them together for classes, teaching them basically how to be missionaries. Our executive director was a missionary for 10 years. Our missionary staff has been missionaries. So we have basically missionaries teaching missionaries. So that's what we do at the trainings at the center. And then the other half is the offices. My home away from home is in St. Augustine. My real home is in Kansas City. But I've never moved to St. Augustine. I just show up there once in a while and enjoy the sun and the city. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, the Real Break. Yeah, so Real Break. So this is it. I love Real Break. It's actually an OCF program that engages college kids. OCF works on about 400 campuses around the country, and they do kind of set up some things. However, they've done some things in collaboration with us to go to some of those international locations. We've had OCF Real Break trips to Jerusalem. We've done a number of different things in collaboration with them. I think that's going to start out probably next year. Keep your fingers crossed. But yeah, we like that program a lot. We're doing some things even in we're supporting the Project Mexico of America. There's a group in Connecticut who does kind of house building and evangelism in an Orthodox sense in Appalachia. And now we're not blessed to work within the confines of the lower 48, but we kind of support them with material just as we support OCF with support And of course, we are in now full collaboration and partnership with Project Mexico. So their missionaries there are actually our missionaries. We've taken them under our wing. So yeah, there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of things and help us. So if I can ever, I also have some business cards up here, but please help yourself to anything. I'll just be up here and you can chat if you want. And thank you, Bobby.
I know most people now probably, if you want to contribute to the work of OCMC, will go right to the website and click something and do it that way. But we have the old-fashioned bowl right
Wow.
over here. If you want,
love it.
tonight, if you want to put something in it, that would, I'm sure, be welcomed by Father Chris and all the people at OCMC. I do know one thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you want it to go specifically to something,
Yes.
you need to make a note. If you're making a checkout, for example, to OCMC for the missionary work of fill in the blank.
Right. And on here, you can certainly make that designation. If you do it on the website, there's a little box that says special instructions. So yeah, we love designated gifts. Otherwise, everything kind of goes to cover general expense. But there's not truly general expense because we support the work of the missionaries. We support the work of the teams. So that's where the general dollars kind of go to get mixed together. But if you have a specific thought, sure. It was a joy and a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you so much. It was really great that you all stayed. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Thank you.